Mermaids are normally used as fictional characters in children's Disney films. Beautiful and mystical characters from the mermaids in Peter Pan to Ariel. However, the mermaids in question this evening are far from beautiful Disney princesses. These ones are allegedly binding the chests of children while also offering them puberty blockers without their parents' knowledge. The Charity Commission is assessing claims that the charity Mermaids, set up to support transgender children, has been offering chest binders to children as young as 14 without parental consent. Appalling. Mermaids have allegedly received more than £20,000 in our money from the government in recent years and have been offering the binder scheme, vile, since 2019, which allows constructive materials to make breasts look flatter. Mermaids say we have a robust security and moderation process. Yeah, really. To place on our forums, and they are a safe space for trans, non-binary and gender diverse young people and their families. Some trans-masculine, non-binary and other gender diverse, it's even hard to say this stuff sometimes, experience bodily dysmorphia as a result of their chest binding, and for some it helps alleviate that distress. Puberty blockers are an internationally recognised safe reversible healthcare option, no they're not, which have been recommended by the medical authorities in the UK and internationally for decades. No they're not, that's not true. Sorry. Had to get that one out. Joining me now is Shelley Charlesworth from Transgender Trend. What on earth?
I know, it is rather shocking to have the evidence there that Mermaids is giving that sort of advice to young children, 13 to 15-year-olds, on their helpline. I agree, yes. We know that breast binders for girls, not children, girls, are harmful. There lots of negative...
we don't bind feet anymore, do we, like they did in...
No, we don't. Even Mermaids says that they can't be worn for great lengths of time because they compress the ribs, they prevent proper breathing, you can't exercise properly in them. And more than that, you have to take a step back and ask, why are girls wanting to wear these breast binders, and what are they being taught in the schools, in the wider society, that makes them feel so uncomfortable in their own bodies?
Well, I think phones and Stonewall Young Champions could have a lot to answer for that. But I suppose the argument that comes back at us is you're not affirming transgender people. But I'm saying, no, of course we affirm transgender people. What we don't do is empower and affirm transgender children, or what children might perceive as being transgenderism, which in my view, sorry for being completely right about this, is body dysmorphia. It's a sense of uncomfortableness in your own body. It's such a small percentage of kids that end up going on in later life to become transgender, and if it was a normal hardware issue like homosexuality, for example, you would expect to see transgenderism, homosexuality in the same sort of proportions. But this is being encouraged, and it seems extremely dangerous to young and vulnerable minds, isn't it, to make potentially life-altering surgeries that will deny a child the chance to have an orgasm in the future. What do we do about it?
Well, I think, just take a step back. These aren't transgender children. These are children with gender distress. We don't know why they have gender distress, but the things that we do know should be cause for concern. We know that around 30% of children attending the Tavistock clinic, GIDS clinic, are neurodiverse or on the autism spectrum. We know that there's been a huge increase in the number of girls, natal girls, attending, believing they're boys, and that is just a historically unprecedented number. It's around 70%, whereas previously it was mainly boys, and a tiny number of them who attended the clinic. But since, for about the last decade, the number's been increasing. Now there's this huge increase in girls, and 70% of those will be gay. I mean, that we have to ask, why is that happening? And why do these girls not feel comfortable with a lesbian identity? I think that's the crucial question.
because it's homophobic, fundamentally.
Well, yes.
Anyway, thank you, Shelley.
Okay.
I am joined now down the line by LGBT activist Peter Tatchell. Peter, at what age is it acceptable for a child to come out as trans?
Well, first let me say that Mermaids is a recognised charity. The overwhelming majority of parents and trans children are happy, content and gratified by the work of Mermaids. They are happy in their trans identity, their parents are happy, they go on to lead happy, fulfilled lives. Now, to answer your question, we always have to think of the interest and welfare of the child. That must come first. And we must also listen to children. So if a child manifests a trans identity, we should not dismiss it or deny it, nor should any parent. That child should be listened to. They should have extensive discussions, which is what does happen in 99% of cases. And then only if the child is absolutely certain about trans identity, then there should be any procedure forward in terms of chest binders, hormones, etc.
I'm sort of speechless. I don't understand. You know, if a child walked into a and came up to me and said, "I'm trans armless. I believe I belong. I shouldn't have two arms," we wouldn't chop the arm off the child, even after lots of consultation. Why are we considering trying to change, which is impossible to do anyway, the biological sex or this imagined ridiculousess of the concept of the word gender? If we wouldn't chop off a child's hand, for example, if they said, "I feel unihandism," why wouldn't you go, "Well, we'll chop off your hand then"? We wouldn't do it in any other situation. Why are we doing it to irrevocably to their sexual organs that will stop them developing properly and in many cases will stop them having an orgasm later in life and have any sexual gratification whatsoever? How on earth could anyone promote this in young people ever?
But of course, chopping off an arm or a hand is irreversible, whereas chest binding and hormone therapy is not irreversible.
Lupron is used to chemically castrate sexual criminals in America. Lupron is used as a chemical castration tool. Is that correct or incorrect?
Sorry?
Lupron, the drug that they use to block puberty, is also used to chemically castrate sex offenders in America. Is that a true or untrue statement, Peter?
I do not know, but I do know that
it's true. I can tell you it's true.
Hormone therapies are used to the satisfaction of the vast majority of trans young people and their parents. Normally, this happens with full parental knowledge and consent. So there's no question that something is being done in 99% of cases without the parents' guidance and support. And Mermaids makes great efforts to involve parents in the procedures. They involve them in discussions and ensure that the parents are informed every step of the way.
This just feels to me like, if I had to guess, I'd say that this is voluntary thalidomide. We are mutilating children. We stand against it when it comes to sending young girls out to have their sex organs, their clitorises removed as part of FGM. But for some reason, we think in the West it's fine for to convince a little boy that he's a girl, allow him to go all the way down the path of this, so to grow long hair. I've seen this in my children's schools, and there's no get out for them, when this kid would usually just turn out to be gay. Now, I and everybody else with a fair mind would turn around and say we must tolerate, love and respect trans people. But those are trans adults. Transing children is for me, mutilation on the hands in the same spectrum as Mengele.
But no one is mutilating trans children. What organisations like Mermaids are trying to do is to listen to trans children, to hear their stories, to understand them, and no one under any circumstances is trying to persuade or convince them to be trans, merely to affirm what the child themselves says. I mean, I would be absolutely opposed to any attempt to try and pressure people to be trans. I don't know of any instance where Mermaids or other organizations have done that. But, you know, what I do know is, from my own personal experience, the many stories of parents who are so happy that their child has got support from Mermaids and is now happy in their trans identity. That removes the distress, the anxiety, the depression, often the self-harm and even attempted suicide that some young trans kids go through. If we can remove that and we can give them a happy, fulfilled life, that I'm sure is something that you would want as well.
I completely agree with you. I suppose where we disagree is over the issue of identity and reality. Anyway, thank you, Peter Tatchell, very much. Now,